right, guys, just to get started, I just want to welcome everyone to my webinar today, Legal Documents Every College-Aged Adult Should Have. And quite frankly, most of us should have, right? These are documents that are beneficial for all of our lives. And hopefully you get that sense today when I'm finished with the webinar. My name is Nataki Apollon, and I'm glad you're joining me today. You're going to learn a lot. Okay, this is going to be a great use of your time. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being present and really just seeking the knowledge, right? Because being here means that you care and you want to learn more. So I'm so happy for that. And I know as parents, maybe some of you are parents, maybe some of you are just, are grandparents, aunties, uncles, whoever you are, it is back to school season time and our minds are filled with all things tuition, schedules, sports, all of that, right? But today, we're going to dive into a discussion about critical documents for your student, your child, your niece, your nephew, your grandparents, that everyone over 18 needs, okay? And just a little bit about myself before we get into it, before we get started. I am, as I said, Nataki Apollon, an estate planning attorney and educator. I'm also a wife and mother of 3 boys. And, I am going through this experience with you all now. Our first son just went to college, Ethan, all right, to start his freshman year. And I can't believe it, an exciting time. He's playing football. So that's a big yikes sometimes because, the first thing you think about with football, he's actually calling me now as I'm here on the live, but I won't answer him. But as I think about football, the first thing I think about is what? Injury, perhaps, or if something happened, what would happen to us? And, you can go down a rabbit hole. But the good thing, is that what I'm discussing today is not about if your child is or isn't playing a sport. It's about protecting your child no matter what. Right? Creating a plan in the event something happened, regardless of what sports they played, what college they were in, what their major is. And I tell you the truth, I'm passionate about estate planning. And as I learn more, I want to teach more. And I want to let you know that our practice started as a real estate practice. We sold homes for individuals, for companies, for corporations. We purchased homes. We are in a family practice that has been established for over 30 years. And I'll be honest, the last few years, we've noticed that our clients have been coming back saying, the home that we have, mom has passed, dad has passed, we don't have the proper documents in place. What do we do? It was sort of a reactive thing. And so estate planning was born from being a real estate office and knowing that, wait a minute, we're doing our clients a disservice by not having them learn more about estate planning and how to protect these assets that they're purchasing. So when I present, I truly present from an educational and, mindset initiative. As I learn, as I said, I want to teach my community about legacy and planning and why it's so important for everyone, every single person, every one of you that, is within the reach of my voice, you need a plan, right? 18 and over, you need a plan. So just some housekeeping, I will give you my contact info at the end of the presentation. Also, we'll have Q&A at the end of the presentation as well. So if you have questions, you can drop them in the chat. We will pick them up at the end. Please feel free to ask as many questions as you can because this is a session for you. For the next 45 minutes, I'm really going to share some important legal rights that individuals earn on their 18th birthday. And these are real considerations for families. And these are considerations we should make even before students head off to school, but it's never too late. And whether or not they're going to college, the military, or just entering the real world at the age of 18, this post-high school period is critical. It's critical. It's the first time our child or children will not be living with us as parents or guardians. And they have the freedom to make their own decisions, including taking risks, right? Because once an individual turns 18, parents lose certain rights to speak for their child, which can be sometimes problematic in an emergency. So these are considerations. And we know at 18, yes, we are adults in the eyes of the law, but are our kids really adults at 18? Think about this, the responsibilities, the risks. And so we're going to talk about the documents that you need in place before they take those next steps in their lives. And we'll also talk about what happens if you don't have them in place. And we'll also talk about how I can help you get these documents in place, right? So you can rest better at night knowing that there's a safety net and you've given that to your child. Okay, so I want you to really think about today as like a personal consultation. This is something I would do if you came to see me one-on-one. And if you were to schedule a consult with me, we would spend about 45 minutes together. You would sit with me and leave having all of your questions answered. And just more importantly, or most importantly, you would know what steps you need to take to move forward. All right, so you'll get the same information in this webinar as you would if we were in a personal consult without having to pay my fee. So that's a bonus, right? So please make sure that, any questions you have, don't be shy. I'm happy to answer them. And we'll go over again the legal rights that they gain on their 18th birthday, college or not. Remember, it's, what documents we need, and we'll also have a Q&A. And I have a gift for you, for each and every one of you for attending. So if you stick around to the end, if you make it to the end, that'd be awesome. You will have a gift from me. And it's something that I think would be, helpful for you as a family in your future plannings. All right, so you're in the right place. If you have a recent high school graduate, if you are a recent high school graduate, you're moving out of your parents' home, yay, you're, going out on your own, or you will be turning 18 soon, right? And, it's a process. And if you're like me, I always want to know what's involved, how much time will this take? What will it cost? Are you going to give me all the information that I need? And you may even be wondering, do I need a lawyer to help me with all of this, right? And can't I just do it online? The answer is yes and no. And the reason I say yes and no is because there are so many online resources, but not all of them are helpful and not all of them will work when you need it to work. I'm a proponent of doing something rather than nothing, rather than have the state dictate your what happens with your estate, right? But I also believe that proper planning exists with this, right? With one-on-one contact, with contact with us as individuals, as people. And so online planning is better than no planning at all. But I'll be honest with you, I'm not a fan, because I found that a lot of times when the plan is to go into place, it doesn't work. It doesn't work for you. And there's no one to call, no one to ask with that. So you just have to really keep that in mind. But you are in the right place to get these questions answered. So turning 18, right? I remember my 18th birthday, maybe many of you do, but it's a huge milestone. It's a big milestone in many people's lives. And, it brings a range of new freedoms, responsibilities, some fun, and there are things that are not so fun, and there are things that are absolutely terrifying as an 18-year-old. Things that, looking back, you probably didn't even recognize, but now that we know better and we're learning more, we're sharing that so you can know it and you can look out for your child. So the fun stuff, right? You get to vote in local, state, and national elections. It is election season. I know, unless you're under a rock, you know this, but this is the time to let your voice be heard. You can get married without parental consent. I don't recommend it at 18, but stranger things have happened. My parents got married at 19 and they're still together 50 plus years later. So it does work in some circumstances. In that time, for sure, it worked. And I'm sure maybe you could find that now, but not always a recommendation. You can join the military, make your choice to go to college, or you just move out and live as you wish as an adult. You can change your name, get a tattoo. My kids are all looking forward to that. One is already 18, and he's planning on his tattoo. And you can even purchase a gun without your parents, okay, right? So these are some of the things you can do, which, fun or not so fun. You also can get called for jury duty at 18. At 18, your children have the right to serve on a jury. We know as adults, not so fun. But they're really, really scary and terrifying parts if you don't, work it right or know better with becoming 18. So you can get a credit card. You can sign contracts at 18. And remember, these contracts are not just, contracts that last throughout your 18th birthday. There are lifelong implications on your ability, perhaps, to find housing, to, buy a house, get a good job. So, any decisions to make your, medical care, all of that. So when you're making these decisions and entering these contracts, you can't take them lightly. And as an 18-year-old, they should not take them lightly, but quite often they do, right? And the scariest part of all of this is you could be sued, right? At 18, you absolutely could be sued. And I'll tell you the truth. I want to just talk a little bit about the terrifying stuff, not to scare you, but to make you aware of what happens when a child turns 18. And now there's a new privacy institution that's overbearing on them. And you as a parent cannot do much unless you have the right um, plans in place. So I had the privilege to go to college, and I went through an RA training program, which stands for Resident Assistant Program at Fairleigh Dickinson University. So we learned about the rules, about implementing curfews, limitations, what time the opposite gender could be in the building, all these rules that you think about as a typical college student. And one of the things that we were told, which was very interesting thinking back now, is students' privacy. We were warned against, engaging with parents in an effort to protect a student's privacy. And so they're particularly careful to warn against helicopter parents. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with that term, helicopter parenting, but if you aren't, it's a term typically applied to parents who are overprotective and take on a very involved parenting style. Now, I don't like to call myself a helicopter parent, but I do take on a very involved parenting style, as do most of you. I'm sure that's why you're here. You want to make sure that you know what's happening in your children's lives, right? So it's not to say that as a parent of an 18-year-old, I want to be hands off, especially if my child wants and needs guidance, and they all need the guidance, right? But it's more applied to parents who put excessive pressure on their kids, micromanage them, remind them about homework and tests, and sometimes even call to wake their kids up like an alarm clock, which is something a lot of parents are guilty of. Thank God we're not. But but this training really talked about not engaging with these parents and even refusing acknowledgement if we saw their child at all. So even if maybe we lived across the hall from them as an RA, or we took classes with them, or we were at a party, we weren't allowed to even say, yes, I saw them in class, or yeah, they were at a party, um, they were doing X, Y, and Z. We were told we could not do that. That was a breach of privacy for the student. And, while there, I did know a student who was taken to the hospital for stomach pain. The ambulance came late at night. She didn't call her parents. She didn't want to, mention it to them, worry them. Of course, as most kids would probably do. I can handle it. I'm an adult. And I was there at the front desk for a few days. And her parents called when I answered and wanted to know, they demanded to know why I didn't tell them or no one informed them that, their child had been taken to the hospital. And they only found out because they got a bill, right? They got a bill from the hospital and from the insurance company, and nothing was explained to them. And so from an RA perspective, I hated that. I hated that I had to get yelled at for something I had nothing to do with. And I also know that I wouldn't want my parents worrying about me, right? I wouldn't want my parents having to be concerned about something like that. But knowing as an RA, I couldn't breach that right. It put me in a tricky position. And so I really went to learn more about the process for medical documentation and finding out what my parents needed to do to get access to that, just in case of an emergency, which is extremely important. There's also an incident in the early 1990s at Marymount College, and that's something that was like on Unsolved Mysteries. I found out about that later on, but it was about a student experiencing bullying, harassment, which we take so seriously, more seriously now, I think, than we did in the 90s. But the school mentioned to the parents called, the school said, we're taking care of it, we're dealing with it. But the student lost his life. And so this is part of the terrifying stuff that happens. And it's sad. And I don't want to scare you in doing this. And, it could be something that's terrifying, but as parents, there's something we can do about it. That's the perfect part about this, of your being here, right? So it's not all doom and gloom. As parents, we can plan for and prepare for this newfound adulthood and really get everything in place that these kids need to thrive and to succeed, and as we parents need to make us feel more peace of mind. So these were the headlines that were there, just some of the headlines for that. And so What I want to start talking about is setting up a durable power of attorney. So I'll give you a few documents that you will need to get yourselves on the right foot, to make sure your child is going to be okay, and to make sure you have full control and involvement in your children's lives. Like this is what we want. Just because a magic switch doesn't flip on and off. Yes, they're adults. No, they're not. They just left home, right? They need guidance and they need our involvement. So let me tell you about this durable power of attorney. Sometimes it includes healthcare medical decisions, but I'll talk a little bit about that in a separate document. But a durable power of attorney, it allows you, the parent, the guardian, or a trusted adult to assist with financial and legal matters. And this is most important in the event of an emergency. As I discussed before, things happen. And as parents, when your child turns 18, you can't just jump in and say, do X, Y, and Z without authorization. And this durable power of attorney allows you to now become your child's agent. God forbid something were to happen, they would contact you as the agent and you could be very involved. And you can grant, the child can grant these rights to you as the parent and delegate different aspects of the document to you as they see fit. So with a durable power of attorney, you can manage your child's finances if they can't do so. So if they need to get a bill pay, manage their bank accounts, any other real like financial responsibilities. You could even also talk to student loan companies. And most of us as parents, if you're a signer on a student loan, you can't talk to that bank if your child doesn't give authorization. Crazy, right? No, you can't. So you're going to want to make sure you have a durable power of attorney so you can also be in touch and you can also be an authorized agent to speak on your child's behalf. It also allows you to assist with legal matters, right? So if you're signing, you can sign documents on your child's behalf, handle legal disputes, and that's crucial in non-medical emergency situations. So there are instances, hopefully none of our children get into this, but children do silly things at times. So if your child were, for instance, suspected of drinking underage or accused of a crime and is in custody. So this document would come right into play with you as agent, right? They'd say, yes, your child, yes, he or she is 18, but you have an agent, your child has an agent to speak on their behalf. It also simplifies the process and reduces delay in critical situations. So, time is of the essence sometimes in emergency situations. And so you want to quickly and effectively support your child. And this is what this document allows you to do. Now, in the event that a child, college student, I keep saying child, they are young adults, but please know that when I'm speaking of child, I'm speaking of your young adult. But God forbid they were incapacitated due to an illness, due to an injury, or anything like that, having a power of attorney, healthcare documents, that ensures that someone they love, they know, they trust, makes crucial financial and medical decisions on their behalf, right? So without these documents, there are a lot of hurdles in managing the affairs of your child. So we don't think about it like this, but these are, serious considerations as they step out into this brand new world. Okay. Another document that is important is a medical power of attorney. So this one is healthcare focused. And when your child turns 18, parents cannot access their medical records anymore or make medical decisions for them. So you as a parent cannot say, let me just call the doctor and get records for Ethan or Noah or Chase, right? They are gray areas in the medical world that allow you to do that in some emergencies, but not always. So it's good to have this form ahead of time. God forbid you needed to do that. So if someone is incapacitated, your child, your young adults, they can't make medical decisions, your medical power of attorney is saying we're ready to go into action because this is who's going to make the decisions. This is who was selected as an agent, and this is who we will, contact in the event of an emergency. And to be honest, there's nothing better than that. It gives you that peace of mind, that knowing that, someone is designated to handle your child's needs, you, of course, your spouse, your guardian, your parent, whomever your child decides on having, that is their choice. And, but at least someone that is ready and there's no time wasted trying to figure out what to do. It also gives you streamlined care. It can streamline communication with providers, healthcare providers, and ensure that all the wishes are followed without any delays. And it does give your child an aspect of control, because as parents, we do want to help, we do want to guide, but we also want to encourage. We want to encourage them to make decisions for themselves, rather than leaving it up to a medical staff or legal defaults. And so when I talk about estate planning, whether I'm speaking of a child or for you as adults, it's about control over your decisions. What control, do we have over our lives? And estate planning is one of those things that we actually do have control over. It's just taking the steps to doing it, or even knowing what to do. Okay. The healthcare HIPAA authorization, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. Okay, so that's what HIPAA stands for. It's a legal requirement that your health providers keep certain details about your conditions, care, any prescriptions your children or young adults may need, and treatments private. Privacy is a huge issue in and it's a beautiful thing to have privacy in the medical world. But to be honest, as a parent, I don't want to hear about privacy. I want to know what's going on in my child's life. So this HIPAA authorizes you to have access to documents, to critical information. And so it is a great law. HIPAA, ensures that no one can discriminate against you for medical reasons or pressure you into anything. And in an emergency, your doctor can share updates with a parent, adult, a designated person, so they know that there's enough information to make informed decisions. Sometimes there are decisions and conditions that need to be made by a family in totality, right? Your child doesn't want to have that all on themselves, and you as your parent don't want to have that. It's kind of a community effort. So having this HIPAA document and having authorized parties, such as you, the parents, grandparents, whomever, it does help, because, in the event that something happened to our young adult and they couldn't speak for ourselves, these documents are their voice. And that's under their control, their choosing, but you do it together as a family. And it's important to know, everything we've discussed so far, all of these documents, they're voluntary. And so your child can choose to grant access to you and say for how long. It's important to know they can revoke this and say, you know what, this sounds good, but I take it back. I want to have full authority and autonomy over myself. And one day that is the hope, right? You don't want your 40-year-old child saying to you, Mom, I can't make a decision without you, but your 40-year-old child will understand and know the importance of these documents and have them in place, right? Because these documents are in effect as long as there's no revocation of the document, meaning that the document will carry through adulthood. But I don't recommend you just making a document and forgetting it. You could, but it's always important to update your healthcare documents, your estate planning documents every 3 to 4 years if necessary. But that's something you decide, and it's part of the autonomy of life, right? So you can also say that these documents are in effect until your child graduates from college. At least it gives it a finite time to say, yes, we will have full care, control, authorization as agents until he or she graduates. And it leaves you all with that peace of mind. So another thing I'm going to talk about a little bit, which brings to my mind, though you can get authorization for healthcare, et cetera, for financial overviews, this will not always apply to records in the student health center, meaning if there are records held within the college or university itself, that may be a different consideration. Okay. So we'll talk about that in a little later slide, but the first thing I want to just kind of to wrap up this healthcare piece that works along with a healthcare directive or proxy is your living will. And this is sometimes called an advance directive. And what it does is it provides families and healthcare providers with clear instructions about the treatment your child may or may not want. All right. And the bottom line is it reduces conflicts that can arise between parents, significant others, if parents are separated, or someone wants to do A and someone else wants to do B, that can cause some conflict. But if your child makes a decision at 18 and says, no, I want you to act on my behalf, and this is what I want, it gives your child a voice. Okay, even if, God forbid, at that time they couldn't speak verbally, it actually does give them a voice. And it also helps loved ones when they're emotional, being pressured to make decisions. We've been in that decision making process, that period with my husband and his family having to make decisions. And thank God we did have something in place that we didn't have to do that, because that would have just added to the emotional stress and strain that, we were feeling at that time. So it's an important document. It's understated, but really important. And legal living wills are legally binding. So if the matter had to go to court, just know that the wishes of the young adult would override any of that of family members, etc. Because again, it's about control. And although as a family, you may make decisions, at ultimately it's about, the young adult's decision that they make. And so your living will can also go past your college years, as I mentioned. So you can, in one instance, set it and forget it, or it can last until your child graduates from college, or indefinitely. But the important thing is you always kind of look back and see what has changed in your life that you need to make changes and adjustments for. So that's something to always consider. And another really important document, also something to think about is that sometimes, even on your license, they give you the option to be a donor, an organ donor, for science or for education, or a patient on the transplant list. Sometimes we do like to do that. So this is where you would do that as well and make that election in your living will. So this is a really important document, this FERPA release form. And so the FERPA let me tell you what FERPA stands for, Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. And these are release forms. And these release forms protect the privacy of a student's educational records, healthcare records. All records held by a college or university are held in a private manner, of course, much like healthcare, et cetera. And by signing a FERPA release form, the students can grant their parents, they can grant their guardians, anybody that they choose, the ability to access their academic and financial records. And so that facilitates better support and intervention, because we know our kids are not, if they're not doing well, they're not running to give us those grades, right? So this is kind of like a way to say, I'm not overriding your choice of not showing me, but I need to get involved and intervene, especially in most instances, since you are paying, right? To know what's happening, to know what's going on. And, before you're 18, your children turn 18, parents are presumptive holders of these rights. At 18, those rights are the students and the students alone. I'll repeat that. At 18, the rights to records, academic, financial, etc., are the students alone. And so they are without this release. This authorization and release is the magic bullet. It's the magic ticket that will assist with getting that information. And so what is protected under FERPA, right? Under FERPA, what the privacy that's being protected for the student is the right to inspect, the right to review financial and educational records maintained by the college. So any of their grades, their transcripts, class schedules, disciplinary records, any educational documents, the right for an amendment. So let's say that a student is saying that their educational records are inaccurate, misleading. They have the right to request that the school amend those records. And so if the school decides not to, there's a right to a formal hearing. So this is what is being protected. It also allows third-party access. Parents or guardians can access the student's college records, but only with that written consent, right? So even if the situation is financial aid and you call and say, hello, I am parent of Ethan Apollon, and I need to talk to you about their financial aid, they'll gladly say, thank you for calling. Please redirect Ethan and have him come into our office, right? So this kind of gives third-party access, written consent, any academic performance, disciplinary, anything like that. There are exceptions. It depends on the school and the rules, but without written consent and without these releases, you are out in the dark, unless your child, of course, shares with you. Another thing to talk about is a last will and testament. This document, it seems premature. I know it does. It's not something that you want to think about for your student, but you should. and for yourselves, guys. And I really hope this is inspiring you to say, if I don't have any of this that she's talking about today, if nothing else that Nataki is talking about today, I need to get my children in order, and I need to be the person that they're looking up and modeling, and get myself in order. And I am practicing from a place of what I preach, because I'm like the hairdresser that didn't do her hair for a long time to get these things done. It takes time, right? But doing them, it makes all the difference. It makes all the difference. So, what you may want to consider with a last will and testament, it will be very basic, but control over your child's, over their own assets. Even if there's nothing serious there, maybe a car, their computer, any savings they have, it does let them decide who gets those items if something happens. Also, if you have whole life insurance, remember those back in the day, Gerber would send you all that information about life insurance and all of that. So if they have whole life insurance, beneficiary designations could be discussed. Also, a huge component of this is digital legacy. So whatever online presence your children have, a lot of these young people are influencers, social media influencers, they're out there, digital photos, any online assets have to be managed according to their wishes. And this will allow them to. And it can specify what happens to these digital assets, personal wishes they may have, instructions for their belongings. And it just gives you ease for your family, because at the end of the day, it's about protection, putting things in place so the state doesn't intervene, and you're not dealing with a court of law all the time to make determinations when you have full control. That's really the bottom line. You have full control. And, life is unpredictable. We pray for the best, but we're always prepared for it. And having these documents in place doesn't mean that something is going to happen magically. Oh my gosh. What it means is that it's putting assurances in place. You feel better, right? Your wishes are known, they're followed, and it's just really peace of mind at the end of the day. Another important document, as I mentioned in the last slide about digital legacy, is a digital asset authorization. And so, you need legal documentation to get access to anyone's digital assets, whether they're your child or not. So even if someone is not a YouTube star or an Instagram model or ambassador or whatever social media app these kids are using, you're going to want to give someone access to know what's going on, maybe tell your fans what's happening, or really just close out your information if need be. And it also gives access to iPhones and Apple content and iCloud. And it's very interesting because this gave me a thought. I had a client call me during the summer and say, I need to get access to my father's phone. He didn't have a will, and I can't close down his account. Apple won't let me. They're telling me I need to go to a court of law. And of course, you know what I had to do? I had to get letters of authorization, go through the full probate process. We'll talk about what probate is in another webinar, but it's essentially going through the court to get a judge to sign off on releasing your assets or permission to get access to your assets. And the process is sometimes 6 months, sometimes a year, whatever it is. But Apple is really strict, by the way. So just so you know, they will not just unlock the phone for someone who's died or passed away. And I lived it firsthand because one of my clients came in, and like I said, thank God we got the letters recently, but that's something you have to consider as well. I don't think we consider that. And, think about the memories that are in that phone. She also wanted to get some pictures of her dad that she couldn't access, because they wouldn't just unlock it. So these are things now she can't unlock it. She can call Apple and say, here, I have my letters. But these are just, considerations we don't think of on a day-to-day. So, just overall, these documents provide a safety net, and I hope you can see the importance of these documents, for the students, for the family, managing finances, healthcare, anything like that in case of an emergency, because as we learned and we know, emergencies happen, things happen, life happens. Life is always lifing. So we always want to be prepared as best we can. There's no perfection, but with something like this, I want to let you know that there's something you can do. And so how can we help? How can I help? Normally, I don't discuss my fees at webinars, but what we can do for attending, we definitely have a special, it's a really special off to college package. It would include your child's durable power of attorney, which we discussed, all these documents we discussed, healthcare power of attorney, your HIPAA authorizations, last will and testament, digital asset authorization and FERPAs, all of that for a flat fee package of $7.99. And I want you to know as parents, just a side note, even if you are the person paying for the service, at 18, your child would be my client. So that would be attorney-client privilege with them. Of course, we do this together as a family. You all are welcome to attend. I encourage it. I want it. But their decisions will be their decisions at the end of the day, and we do have to respect them. But the fact that we're empowering them to make decisions and get control is awesome. So like I said, $7.99 for all of these documents, which is huge. But I just want to offer options. And if you needed to split the payment, whatever you needed to do, I'd be willing to do that. And also a gift for attending, if you book an off to college planning session, we'll put the link here in the chat. But if you book an off to college planning session, the beauty is that for your own personal plan, right? Because now this has probably inspired you, you would get $350 off your own family plan. Also a complimentary consultation. Like I said, I do charge a fee for my consultations, but for attending this, for doing this, I really want to make it work for you guys. So I just want to make sure that you do have, this information here, and you can definitely schedule. Okay. And then I just want to let you know that this is, an offer that we have for limited time, but please contact me if you need anything. And again, you have what's included in our package. You can screen share this, screenshot it, save it, make sure you have it, share it with your family members and friends, just so they know what's included. And maybe they don't know about this information. Maybe they don't know why it is so important. Because I don't want to make money an issue for your student. This is a chance for empowerment for everyone. So I definitely, want to make sure you have this information here. Okay. And any questions you have, let's see if you have any questions in the chat. Sorry, I can't see my chat anymore. Sorry, guys, 1 sec. Let me go back to my go back in here. Any questions? Yes, hold on. Let me get in here. Okay, this is a fantastic question, actually. How can we broach this conversation with our young adult? And then the next portion of the question is, can they amend their plans as needs change when they graduate or get married? This is a great question. Also, guys, can you please let us know in the question box if you received the link to book? I just want to make sure you guys receive the link to book and it's getting to all of you. If you could just give me a yes in the chat that or the Q&A, wherever, that you did see that link drop in there, that would be awesome. Just so you have it and make sure you can take it and share it. So back to the question. So broaching this conversation, I think it's more difficult for the parent than the child. I do believe it can be more difficult for the parent than the child because there's so many realizations. Your child is now an adult. You have to have adult conversations with them. But I think the realities of life supersede. And these kids, these young adults are really smart. They've seen and lived through a COVID world where they had to do everything online through Zoom and experience something that we never thought we would see in a lifetime. So I think they're prepared for the conversation. And the conversation is more like, how can we protect ourselves as a family so we can minimize emotional impact if something were to happen? How can we protect ourselves as a family to jump in and give the help needed right away without loss of time, God forbid, if something would happen, by taking control? And I think if you put it in a standpoint of empowerment and empowering them and say, hey, this is something we're doing together. I want you to think about this and let me know what questions you have so we can discuss it. And I will respect all choices you have, But as they enter this new world of adulthood, we didn't have those conversations as young adults with our parents, not that we can recall maybe. So it's so important to do better as we do different iterations of generations. And it just starts with a conversation and having the conversation, even asking how they feel about planning and preparing for themselves and their lives is a great place to start. And it doesn't all have to be resolved in one sitting, right? It can be over time. This planning is not in one sitting. It definitely is something that's done over time. So I think the best way to broach it is by just talking about it, having full dialogue and letting them know it's about empowerment and wanting to empower them and protect them and really be there as a support system for them if something were to happen. So we don't have to rely on New York State or the courts or anyone else to make decisions for them. And another question is, can they amend their plans as their needs change? They absolutely can. So this is something that's fully revocable, even the power of attorney. It's a very stringent document, but that power of attorney is fully evocable, fully amendable, all of that throughout life. So you can decide to, like I say, set it and forget it, or you can go ahead and say, you know what, I'm out of college, or I have my first job and I'm stable, or whatever it is you feel. So you can say that in order to go ahead and revoke it. It's time. It's time for me to make changes, or make changes to who, if let's say they get married. I want to just make my spouse now my agent. So yes, thank God they're fully revocable, fully amendable as they graduate, get married. And as a side note, you could also put those terms in the document. So we could also say, for example, if they wanted this to expire, or their healthcare proxy, for example, to expire at the end of college, that could be notated specifically as well. So you can get very specific. Yes, and another question is cost. Yes, $7.99. That would include, if you clicked on the link, our discussion and drafting of every document that is there. So please share this with people you know. Please share this with people you know that have children, that are guardians, that are aunts, that are uncles. Share this information. People don't realize what what they don't know. They don't know what they don't know. And they don't realize how important it is to have a plan in place for your child right now, for yourselves right now. Please share this information. So yes, $7.99 is a steal. That is like a quarter of the price for an estate plan for an adult. That would include fully trusted and all that. So if this is something important, I just don't want to make anything an excuse to plan. I don't want money to be an excuse to plan. I don't want anything to be an excuse to plan. So I really want you guys to take advantage of this and share this information. So no more questions in the chat. I don't see any. I don't see any more questions. I think that was it. But I just want to say and end on a note, really to thank you for being here today. Thank you for taking the first step towards a plan for yourself, for your children. And what are the next steps? Book. There's no harm in booking. And those gifts I would offer to you, the discounts, the complimentary consultation, and really the reduction in fee. I don't want any excuses for you guys. I want you to really plan for your families. And, I thank you for being here. Please feel free to email me at lawyer@www.andalaw.com. I can be found at Estate Empress NY on Instagram. And any questions you have, DM, email, reach out. I'm happy to help. But definitely share this information, share the link, and share the knowledge that you have. Share our name, share our information, because we want to spread this information to all of our communities so we can help everyone really live a proper legacy for themselves and for their families. Okay, so thank you so much for all those that attended. I appreciate you. I thank you. And I will see you on the next webinar. Bye-bye.